I'm going to do a demo of using the Programmable Mind as a language-based interface to a word processor. Well, it's a POC, not a demo. Well, let's just start with the demo. Boom, the demo can be found here. Voila. I upgraded my demoing, so now I put all the demo script in a drop-down, so it's easier to remember. So this is a component called Slate that implements a word processor. I think it's called Slate, npm Slate. Yeah, it's this one, Slate. So it implements a word processor. Boom. And so what I was added a language-based interface to a word processor. That's what this is a POC for. So I'll just start with the demo. Make everything bold. Well, it made everything bold. I'm going to refresh in between each query so you can see the changes. Make everything italics, underlined, and bold. So this is basically you just can talk about the document and get it to do stuff with language instead of having to use the selecting this and then pushing the buttons up there. Okay, make the words that start with T bold. Bloop. So now all the words that start with T are bold. So it shows you can do like sort of complicated things that would be difficult to do with a GUI. Like, I don't know what kind of crazy GUI you'd have to have that would support doing that. And I'm just trying to demo the level of complication you can have in the language, and it still works with the program through its API. Also got underline the fourth and seventh word. Loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, it underlined the fourth and seventh word. Amazing. Obviously, these are just stuff from my unit or my integration tests, so I know they all work. Underline the words that contain E. Loop. So you can see it's like you can say complicated things in the language, and then it can map to doing complicated calls against the API. The API for Slate isn't based on like letters, words, and paragraphs. I think I set this up to work with. I forgot to do sentences. I was going to do that. It's built more to work with like the structures that correspond to the HTML. So I had to write some code to map to letters, words, and paragraphs so that my language thing would work. So that shows that. And again, it's a POC, so I'm not guaranteeing everything works. And it doesn't do like, there's lots of cool things you could think to say that it doesn't implement. But I'm just trying to demo my thing can do this kind of stuff. So bold the third letter of the second paragraph. Bloop. Oh, look at that. Second paragraph, third letter. So you can see the kind of precision you can get when you're directly programming the API rather than training the API. Oh yeah, let me show the code. So where are we? I think. Oops. Bloop. So it's using the POC is using this knowledge module somewhere in here. This one, the word processor knowledge module, where I just wrote all these are the sentences that I made it work with, and this is the source code. How many lines is it? It is 444 lines. This is my to-do list. I mean, it's just a POC, so I'm not writing a shipping product, so I just didn't do everything. Yeah, so this is the code. I mean, it looks like all the other ones. This is the API, so in order to use this code to call Slate, like over here, whoops, wrong one. Where'd it go? This one. So over here, I'm loading this knowledge module, this word processor knowledge module, and then when you type in sentences like whatever, make everything bold, it goes into this junk And then this stuff eventually calls this API here, which is what? This API here. And it calls it with like JSON doesn't have anything to do with language, and you can and then over here I've implemented the API to call the slate code. Let me see if I can find that. Oh, I'll have a link to this when I finish this demo. I'm going to update the page with a link to the code for this web page. So I'll just find it the other way. I always forget where the repo is. Source code of lang. I think it's here. This one. Which one is this? Word processor. This. Yeah, so here's the implementation of API, where all I've done is I've implemented this API from here. This is the program that implements the website with the word processor in it. So this code is just calling the Slate API with, yeah, here it is, the API. So I implemented the API I showed from the knowledge module over here. And then, so these are the functions from the API. Change state is the one that does all the good stuff. And then wherever I load the knowledge module, I just tell it to use this API. And then this calls this junk up here, which is really, it's just converting like a JSON data structure that shows, that says what to do, what update to do. It's converting that into calls to Slate. So let me show that. I'm going to show the data structure. Bold everything, GD. G means run it against my local server. So this is where is it here? This is what gets passed into that change state function or update state or whatever it was called. So it's taken the language down here and then converted it. The knowledge module converts it into this data structure. And then over here in the code, this thing is called with this change state is called with a data structure. And then it calls this stuff up here, which maps the whatever I decided the data structure was into calls to the Slate API. So that's how it's all. So that's the reusability of it. So if you had your own word processor, all you'd have to do is implement this API, wherever it is down here. Implement this API. Oh, this is the wrong file. Implement. What file am I in? Oh, yeah, implement this API. Where is it? Blah, blah, blah. Why am I not seeing it? Implement this API and to call your word processor. And then you just load this knowledge module and give it the queries you want. And then this API would get called with that data structure. And you can see the data structure by doing this command line run I did here. And it'll show it up here. And that's the data structure you get. So so it shows the reusability. So this isn't like I didn't write this as a one-of hookup to the word processor. It's a generic component over here. This word processor knowledge module is generic, and you can use it against any word processor. I mean, obviously it doesn't do very much. It just does this bolding and underlining stuff. But one could make it more complicated. So let me just do some more demoing. Where did the demo go? Here we are. So let's do some fancy stuff. I mean, I guess some of the stuff was already fancy. Okay, let's do this. Boom. Oh, I'm refreshing so it gets a clean state. So it's easier to see the change. Underline the paragraphs that contain bolded words. Underline the paragraphs that contain words that start with mid. Bloop. So there must be a mid in here. There's middle. This doesn't have a mid. This doesn't have a mid. And this doesn't have a mid. So you can do complicated selection criteria and so it used the selection criteria against words, but then you were selecting paragraphs by using characteristics of words in the paragraph, and then you're performing the operation on the whole paragraph. Okay. And it shows like the productivity you can get out of language, where you can like combine phrases and get like really complicated things, say really complicated things. Where was that one? I want to do that one. Oh, whatever. In the second paragraph, bold the first letter of the words that start with T. Bloop. In the second paragraph, so this is the second paragraph, bold the first letter of the words that start with T. Look at that, it worked. It's amazing. So you can see you can do really cool, complicated stuff, right? So you can imagine, like, because it's the programmable mind, so you have like complete control over the concepts you use and how they map to the language. And the programmable mind, it's working directly against the data structure of the program. It doesn't have its own like state vector in the like neural net that's keeping track of its current understanding of the knowledge. This thing is the programmable mind's programmed directly against this data structure, the slate data structure, and it's not maintaining its own state that you'd have with a neural net. Yeah, and it's not. I'm not saying this is better than the neural net things. I don't think it's a replacement. I think it's more of a complement, right? You use the neural net things for the general stuff, and you can use this thing for like stuff where, you know, the concepts of the domain don't correspond to the concepts the neural net happened to have learned. Yeah, so you can program like here, you have complete control over the concepts and how they map into the language. And if something doesn't work, well, you just make a bug and a dev team goes and fixes it because it's programmable, it's not trained. Did I refresh? Yes. Bold the first letter of the words that start. Oh, I did that one. I mean, I'll just do a few more because you guys can just run it yourself. Capitalize the first letter of the words that start with T. Bloop. Bloop. Look at that. It worked. It really just shows that the integration tests, I run my integration tests before it deploys. So that works. So I'm not going to do any more demos. You can just come here and do the drop down yourself or type whatever you want. And again, it's a POC, so it's like it maybe is buggy in I had to write code to map between letters, words, and paragraphs, and the Slate API, which it doesn't work with letters, words, and paragraphs. And I didn't implement, obviously it's just a POC, so I didn't implement every possible cool thing you could say to a word processor. I mean, there's like way more stuff you could do. This is just to give, this is just a vector. It vectors you in the right direction toward the things you can do with the programmable mind and a word processor program. So I will stop the demo here. Bye.